of course, is a question for the initiators of the project, but not for me so much. But I can still try to give you my own answer, and surely natural gas is an important fuel, and its importance has increased in recent decades, but it's likely to increase more in the current situation, where there's a big international pledge to control climate change, to keep the increasing global temperatures within certain limit. And natural gas appears to be an important transition gas, at least for the time being, when non-fossil fuel renewable sources contribution is increasing and becoming more efficient, with the only caveat that there is no backup. So there needs to be still energy produced from other fuels, and these could be nuclear, of course, which means that the nuclear energy is there to stay, but also use of fossil fuels. But we know that fuel, petrol and coal are not going to help with the climate change prevention goals. So natural gas, which is relatively cleaner in a number of ways, including having lower carbon dioxide emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, is a good opportunity, and there's a push in the world towards that for both of these reasons, both for reasons of environmental clean air requirements, especially in countries in the East. This is the primary example is China, but also to meet the goals of prevention of a global climate disaster. So that increases the importance of gas, which was already there before, but now it's become more important. Well, my chapter was about the Eastern Mediterranean, the gas resources of the Eastern Mediterranean, and the prospects for this gas to be developed, and the question about whether they will be developed and contribute to the region's prosperity. And this is more specifically to do with Cyprus and Israel, which are the two countries in the Eastern Mediterranean, in the so-called that have found gas in the so-called Levant basin of the Mediterranean. There is, of course, as Egypt could arguably be considered as an Eastern Mediterranean country, and we know that Egypt, as regards proven gas reserves, Egypt is a huge potential supplier, which has had problems recently for different reasons, which are talked about in another chapter of the book. But I basically concentrated on these two cases where the gas, which has created a lot of excitement and it drew a lot of attention to Eastern Mediterranean, was basically discovered between 2009 and 2011. Two big fields in Israel, and only one of these could be developed until now, and that's regarded as a success story. This is the development of Tamar field, but the other huge field, which is much bigger than Tamar, has created a lot of hopes about turning Israel into a gas exporter, in addition to benefiting from gas both economically and also from energy security point of view. But this development of the bigger Leviathan, it's called, field, as well as the expansion of the other field, has been on hold. And that's the chapter talks about the reasons why this has not come forward in the way it was originally expected, and primarily there are big policy and regulatory controversies in Israel, which is delaying things considerably. But of course, as development delays, the environment, the commercial environment, the market environment also changes. So when plans were laid originally in 2011, 12, those years, the situation was different from what it became, especially after 2014, with the much lower prices of oil and gas, and also slowing global growth, a disappearance of the lucrative East Asian markets, which were creating a lot of excitement again. So this is a completely new environment, which meant that now there is a concentration on regional, using this gas for regional purposes, even export, but regional level of export. So, but the chapter describes the difficulties associated with that and possibilities that are there, but also the uncertainties that are there. And also it talks about the other option, the other case, which is the case of Cyprus, which is an interesting case. I mean, both of these situations, Israel, of course, is a country which is most talked about in the context of the Israeli-Palestine conflict, which is linked with which is the basis of Israel's antagonistic relations with its Arab neighbors and its insecure standing in the region. So there is some connection also about whether this is going to help or not help Israel's standing, all this new discovery of resources. And Cyprus case that's an island which is best known for its political problem, which is it's been going on for decades, since the island's existence as an independent state from 1960, which lasted only for 3 years, and after that it has been a country of anomalies. And it remains so. It's a divided island with unresolved, many unresolved issues about this division, and the discovery of hydrocarbons, the offshore gas, has actually exacerbated some of the disputes which are components of this political problem, and also the expectation that the discovery of these resources and the potential benefits of these resources, the idea that these will create incentives for parties to sit down and come to compromises on their political problem, hasn't been really very realistic, and the chapter explains some different aspects of that situation. Yeah, I mean, okay, it's good you asked this question, because what I actually conclude there is, although there are these geopolitical problems, and if there weren't these geopolitical problems, obviously the countries in the region would have been much more capable of more quickly developing the resources at better times, and go for much more optimal formulations. It hasn't been really the reason why now the development is delayed, and there is a risk that they may even be stranded for who knows what, indefinitely, although there are plans to bring on stream the gas from the Leviathan field in Israel. Is not clear that this is going to work. But the main reason is the internal policy disagreements which have emerged as regulatory problems, issues to do with natural gas policies of the government. So things kept going back and held up. So it's not really so much the geopolitical problems that have created, though geopolitical problems are providing reasons or creating obstacles in the way of most, in the way of what would be optimal ways of exploiting the gas. But at present, it's the impossibility of the development of the resources in Israel. This is primarily to do with regulatory difficulties, and both in Israel and Cyprus, the additional problem of the volatility in the markets, the financial troubles of recent years, and the uncertainty in gas prices, or rather the plummeting oil and gas prices have been the more obvious reasons of delays in development. I mean, obviously, if countries develop a more pragmatic and more realistic approach of what they can do with the gas, it will eventually be possible to develop them, even if it is not the optimal way of developing these. But the idea that the existing gas resources, and they are being brought into the market, and the gas trade, regional gas trade, is going to help for the political stability of the region, I think is overrated, and this is something that needs to be said, even though it is informing some of the policies. It's being pushed as a reason why a good reason why these gas resources should be developed. But it's difficult to think that this positive impact can happen unless the problems are solved themselves. In other words, the gas is not going to help solve the problems, but if the problems are solved, there will be better opportunities for using this gas in a more beneficial way for the region.